What's up, YouTube? It's Zach, and today I want to talk about homosexuality in Islam. Although this applies to Christianity and Judaism and all the Abrahamic faiths because they all derive from the same story, and this is the story of Lot. Okay, so Lot, he basically was trying to preach to the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is kind of modern day Palestine, Israel, Jordan area, where the Dead Sea is today. And they weren't listening at all. And Lot was actually the nephew of Abraham, and so at a certain point, Abraham and Lot were together. And, Lot previous to this had been trying to get his people to believe in God, and they weren't really listening like many other peoples before, including in Arabia with the pagans. But, all throughout, if you read the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, you'll hear of all people who rejected the prophets. Um, and so on one particular occasion, two angels came down in the form of man. And now, whenever an angel comes down in a man form, they're always good looking or abnormally clean. And so, part of the things about Sodom and Gomorrah were they were engaging in homosexuality. Now, part of this is where the main, rejection of gay marriage or gay behaviors or I shouldn't say gay behavior, I should say gay sexual acts, although both sexual acts, whether it's heterosexual sexual acts or homosexual sexual acts, are not permitted unless in marriage. But here we're talking, you can't really get a homosexual marriage based on religion, what it's promoting. So, essentially what had happened is when these two angels came in, the wife had let the other people in the village know, oh, there's two really good looking men, you guys should come. So this mob of men tried to really break into Lot's home to get to these angels. Um, and Lot pleaded with them and said, don't do this, these are my guests. And essentially, the angels had told to them basically saying, listen, Lot, and Abraham, and gather your followers together. Um, you know, God's going to destroy this city. And he also said that your wife is going to be one of the people who are destroyed, which is interesting because it goes to show that just because someone's a relation to you doesn't mean they're going to be there with you. Just like Noah's son, um, it doesn't mean they're going to be the best people for you just because they're related to you, which is hard because it's hard to break those emotional attachments. And so, anyways, they leave the village and it gets destroyed. Now, I wanted to do an analysis on this because I'm a straight male. I don't have an agenda, a hidden agenda that I'm trying to promote through this video. I'm just stating facts. So, as I already stated, there was a lot of other villages that were destroyed for rejecting the prophets or for rejecting the word of God. And it wasn't just Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, I also want you to understand this, and this isn't something that's just my opinion. This is what a lot of sheikhs will say as well. It wasn't that they were just gay that was the reason they were destroyed. It was because they didn't believe in God. They didn't believe in when even though they had clear messages, even though they had a prophet who was showing them who like all prophets were able to do supernatural things to a certain degree. They rejected that. That's really the main reason why. But also, as what's talked about in the Quran, is that they used to rob people who were traveling through the village. They were just overall engaging in bad behavior. But a huge thing is they were also trying to rape these angels. I mean, they came as a mob and wanted to, rape these good-looking men, even though they were angels. Um, it's more than just they were gay and that's why they were destroyed. So, you know, how I want to bring an analysis on this is that ultimately, you know, don't be gay. I mean, if you are gay, I know it's genetic. Does that mean God hates you? No, I don't think it means God hates you at all. I think it's the same question that someone who's born with a handicap disease says, does God hate me? Someone who's born, if someone has a genetic disorder or a mental retardation or any, they're just really poor or they just, their destiny is that their parents died or that they just have a bad life. Does God necessarily hate you? And the answer is no. The answer is God is testing you. Um, does that mean that if you are gay and you are engaging in homosexual behavior that you're automatically going to hell? And the answer to that, I would say, is no as well. When you go through the Quran, or the Bible or the Torah, any religious text, as far as homosexuality, I know, and specifically in the Quran, when it's talking about Lot, God says, why did you choose men when we provided you with women? And so I think there's a distinction here, because I think being gay is genetic, and at least I understand that. Some people understand it. There's some people who don't think it's genetic; they think it's a choice. But whatever, that's not the point of this video. Um, there are, it's not mentioned in other verses outside of the Quran saying, condemning homosexuality. It's just like when people talk about alcohol, or weed, or whatever, or drugs. I mean, that's a big thing that's in our society. I think it's easy to believe in God, but it's hard for people to not engage in adultery, premarital sex. It's not easy for people to not engage in drugs, or if someone's gay, to not engage in homosexuality. I think that's not easy things for people, but those things aren't really, adamantly stated in the Quran. They're not like repeated 100 times over. Telling people not to do drugs or alcohol is said one time. Telling people not to be gay is literally said in one verse. Why did you choose men when we provided you with women? So it does tell people more often to be chaste, or to protect their sexuality. But ultimately, in almost every single chapter, it tells people to believe in the singularity of God, and to not associate partners with God, to believe in the judgment day, etc. So that's really the core of religion. And so, I think what's important, when you look at the time of the prophet, peace be upon him, in, later on, after his death, Muslims weren't really attacking people who were being gay. They didn't make laws against people being gay and said, okay, we're gonna like stone you, or we're gonna kill you. They were only doing things in instances of people raping somebody else. And it could have often been that someone who raped someone else was gay and did it, did it in a homosexual way. Those were the only people who were targeted. It wasn't until colonialization of Muslim countries that Muslims made their laws say, okay, we're going to actually outlaw this, because the colonial nations were primarily Christian, and they had laws against that. So it's not an exclusive Muslim thing. It's really about fundamentalism and modernization versus, you know, what the people at the time of the prophet were actually doing. I also think what's important to understand is that there's a certain degree of when homosexuality was a cultural behavior. And we can even look to Greece, where it was common practice that people would have younger boys who they would be mentors with, but also engage in homosexuality with them. It wasn't just, Greece, obviously. It was just in the world where maybe these people weren't genetically homosexual. They were attracted to women, but because the culture accepted that, oh, you can do things with other men, that it was acceptable. And that's where I bring up an interesting, fact of, well, if you identify as bi, how do you fit into here? What I would tell you is, if you identify as bi, is just don't engage in homosexuality, right? If you're a man and you're bi, just choose a woman. You know, if you're a woman and you're bi, choose a man. That's where I would, go in there and say that. Now, if you are genetically gay, you're not bi, you don't have any attraction to the opposite sex, what I would say to you is, don't just go and reject God because of that. Don't go and, make fun of the holy, text because of that. Um, View it as a test. Do I think if you are, married to a man, if you're a male and you're married to someone who's the same sex as you, or a woman, you're married to this woman who's the same sex as you, are engaging in, homosexual acts, do I think you're going to hell? And the answer is, well, I can't say that. I don't know, but I don't think you're going to hell is if you, you know, do your other duties as a believer, right? Is if you believe in God, if you believe in, the afterlife, if you believe in, if you don't associate partners with God, I don't think you're going to hell, based on your homosexual acts, because, it's tradition that we believe that if you say the Shahada, if you say, you know, there's no God but God, and Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, is his messenger, that you're not going to hell. Okay. Aside if you've done terrible things. Um, and so, where I want people to realize is, you can look at it as a test in the same way that you say, why are there people living, why are there 8 million people a year dying of starvation in a modern society? Why are there some people who are born into wealthy families and some people born into poor families, or some people don't have families, or some people who are, some people are born and they don't have any limbs. You know what I mean? But their mind is still there, so they understand what's going on. It's the same question you'd ask: why does God do what He does? And we don't always know the answer to that. And so, what I want to say to the gay community, LGBTQ community, is that I notice that there's a lot of you who feel like disenfranchised by religion. And by that I mean, like, if you watch like Eurovision, it seems like there's a lot of homosexuals there, and like they identify as, well, I'm a pagan, or I'm a Satanist, or like I'm a this or I'm a that. And even at the Olympics we recently had, the opening ceremony was like drag people making fun of the Last Supper of Jesus. And my thing is, you don't need to hate religion because you are gay, right? Because does God hate you for being gay? No. I mean, does God hate someone for smoking weed or for drinking? No. So, there's within the religious community, there's religious communities, people who are a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a believer, who engage in premarital sex. So, is engaging in premarital sex with the opposite sex any better than engaging in homosexual acts? The answer is no. I mean, one thing we need to realize is that of all the people that God destroyed, in all the religious texts, it wasn't just because you know, they all were engaging in bad things, right? I mean, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, it's not good to rob travelers. It's not good to rob anybody. It's not good to rape people and to try to gang rape them and destroy them, and it's not also good to reject, God and the prophets when they're showing supernatural proof. It's not good to do any of those things. So, it's like a lot of these other people were destroyed, as God mentions in his holy text, but they also weren't gay. And so, what I want to leave people with this is that, if you're bi, I would say just choose the opposite sex. And this isn't my opinion saying this. This is just, we know that engaging homosexuality is wrong, as God prescribed, as God says. Because in the Quran it says, why would you choose, men when we provided you with women? Um, so in that case, just choose a more traditional, um, you know, sexual orientation, sexual route, but also just, don't have premarital sex either. And that applies for me, that applies for everyone. Um, so that's what's important to realize is you shouldn't just feel disenfranchised by, you know, religion based on what your sexual orientation is. Now, if you're gay and this isn't your choice, you're a woman, you're only attracted to women, you're like disgusted by men, or you're a man and you're only attracted to other men, and you're like disgusted by women, that's a test for you to choose, to say, well, I want, this is a test for me, just like God puts tests on other people. Maybe I just should avoid relationships in general. Well, with that being said, if you are, you know, a gay person and you are, whether you're married or if you're not married or whatever, if you have a partner and you're engaging in homosexual acts, does that mean you should just outright reject religion? Does that mean you shouldn't go to your mosque or your synagogue or your church? No, it doesn't mean that. Does that mean you should outright reject God and make fun of religion and be like a pagan or a Satanist or some other, go into this weird branch of spirituality? It doesn't mean you need to do that, right? Because it doesn't mean that you're directly going to hell for engaging homosexual acts, right? It just, when the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed, it was because they rejected God. So my advice to you is to not reject God. And my advice to the straight community is, before you go and you hate on the gay community, understand that 95% of you who are hating on the gay community are also committing sins yourself. Whether that be, robbery, or, cheating other people, or, just engaging in immoral acts, that aren't just homosexuality. You're still just as bad, if we're gonna pull out the judgment card. And ultimately I think that, at the end of the day, God is the only one who judges, and that we need to focus our energy on ourselves. And in reference to my last video, that's what I was kind of promoting. It was kind of promoting, you know I'm out here offering advice. I'm not condemning people. I'm not, saying don't do this at all. Just like when I tell people, not to do drugs or not to have premarital sex, or, to pray 5 times a day, it's not coming from a point of judging you or telling you you're going to go to hell for doing this. It's telling you this because I want you to be better. But at the end of the day, I'm really focused on myself. Whatever people who view my videos do, it doesn't matter to me, right? Because I have things that I need to improve on and things that I need to focus on. And if you're only reading one page of Quran a day, focus on reading two pages of Quran a day. Don't focus on gay people in the world and say it's westernization and the LGBTQs are taking over and whatever. For the most part, I don't give a damn what someone's sexual orientation is. Just in the same way that I don't go around asking people, how much premarital sex have you had? I really don't care. So at the end of the day, my message is that God doesn't hate gay people. So the people of Sodom and Gomorrah weren't just destroyed because they were gay. And if you are bi, choose the opposite sex. If you're straight, choose the opposite sex. If you're gay and you're genetically gay and you're like you can't ever imagine yourself with the opposite sex, don't just step away from religion completely because of that. You can still be a believer in God and the prophets and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Jesus. No, you can still believe in the judgment day. You can still pray. You can still fast. You can still ask God for forgiveness. You can still do all those things, right? And lastly, to the people who are straight out there who just seem to hate on gay people, you don't need to hate on gay people because while homosexuality is a sin, 95% of you are also committing sins, and you're better off putting that judgment energy towards yourself. And even if you don't commit any sins, and you're someone like me who does what you're supposed to do, guess what? If you're reading one page of Quran, focus on reading 2 pages of Quran or 3 pages of Quran a day instead of, putting that energy towards hating other people. So at the end of the day, I just want to bring everyone together and always turn to God with whatever questions you have, with whatever concerns you have. Pray to God, ask Him to help you with whatever it is, but just don't ever turn away from God, right? Always turn towards Him, not away from Him. Thank you.